y'all, welcome back. Today we have for y'all a dirty rice recipe, which down here in the South they call it rice dressing. But all it is a seasoned rice and ground meat mixture. Hopefully you'll try this and maybe even bring it along for y'all's Thanksgiving edition. Now I will not be using chicken liver or chicken gizzards in mine. We don't eat it, so we're just going to be doing this with plain ground beef. But you could do it with ground beef and a pork mixture if you prefer. But I'll see y'all at the stove. Okay, so we have about a stick of butter melting on the stove. Now this is, again, just like a Dutch oven pan. It's a heavy bottom pan that will go from stovetop to oven, which is exactly what we want for today. I also have the oven preheating to 400, so that when we get finished with these steps, we'll be able to move right into the oven. So we're going to let that melt down for just a minute. So I've already pre-chopped 2 bell peppers, 1 yellow onion, and a bulb of garlic. Now depending on your size of the bulb, you only need about 4 or 5 large cloves. But this was a really small bulb, so I went ahead and just chopped up the whole thing. Plus, I love garlic, so it's going to cook down because we're using it in the beginning of the recipe. You're not going to get that sharp garlic bite that you would if you just chopped it up and put it in at the end. Right, I'm going to go ahead and toss all of this in and let it start softening. Now we're going to let this cook on a medium heat for about 10 minutes to get those veggies softened up. This recipe does take a little bit of prep time and a little bit of cooking time, but it's easy, very doable, and very yummy. So we're just going to let that cook. Alright y'all, so our onion and bell pepper are softened pretty good. We're going to make a little well in the center of this, and I'm going to toss in 2 pounds of ground beef. Now the ground beef I'm using today is a ground brisket that we've done, and we're going to use that just because that's what I have in the freezer on hand, but you can use any ground beef. You can even use a pound of ground beef and then a pound of ground sausage if you want to give it a little bit different texture and a little bit different flavor. Alright, so here's 1 pound of our ground beef. And there's the 2nd pound. You see, I like to lay mine flat because they thaw easier. So, look for my little chopper. I'm just going to brown this up. We're just going to let that brown out. We'll keep stirring along the way. Alright y'all, so our meat's mostly cooked. We're going to go ahead and add in some of our seasoning. So, we're going to add in a few splashes of Worcestershire sauce. I just go past the pan a couple of times This just gives it a richness to the flavoring. We're going to add in a tablespoon to start of Tony's sachet seasoning, or whatever your favorite Creole seasoning is. And then we're going to add in about 2 teaspoons, let's see, yes, teaspoons of our beef base. Now, if you don't have beef base, instead of this and water, you could just use regular beef stock. I prefer this because this beef base can stay in my fridge for a while after opening, and I can just easily go to water instead of me having to have like 20 or 30 cans of stock on hand in my pantry. Funny thing is, I have way more fridge space than I do pantry space. I have 3 refrigerators, so I have more room for the beef base than I do the cans. But if you don't, then feel free to use beef stock. We just got that mixed around. We're going to add in 4 cups of water. And again, if you aren't using the beef base, instead of the water, use 4 cups of stock. Now, if you have chicken stock or chicken broth on hand, that will work too. Just, I'm trying to stick with beef flavoring because I'm using ground beef, and I just think the flavors will meld better that way. Alright, now this is the next part of this recipe. You need 2 cups of rice. This is slightly less than 2 cups just because I measured it out before we got the video started, and I didn't have quite 2 cups of rice, but it will still be okay. I may have a little bit of extra liquid in the end, but I do believe it's going to be fine. It was just shy of the 2 cups. Alright, so at this point, we're going to turn the stove off. We're going to put our lid on top of our pan, and we're going to move this to the oven. It's going to cook in the oven at 400 for an hour. You don't have to touch it. You just put it in, come back at the end of that hour. So we'll see y'all in an hour. Hey y'all, so the dirty rice is out of the oven. It's only been out for a minute or so, so it's still really hot. But we're going to take it out of the pan and show you what it looks like. And we're also going to see if it needs any extra seasoning. So we should be good. You see, it's nice and soft. So we should be good on seasoning, but always want to taste it before you're serving it to anyone else. And we didn't touch this the whole time it was in the oven. We just let it just sit and cook. No stirring or anything needed. So obviously it's very hot, but it's very soft. It's not gummy. Whenever you're flaking it, the rice is flaking away really nice. It absorbed all of those juices. Oh, it's perfect. So, very good. I'll probably let it sit in the pot. Ooh, very hot. Not spicy hot, but hot going down the throat. I'll let it sit in the pot and put the lid on it. It'll stay warm until we're ready to serve it for dinner. So we won't even have to reheat it. It'll just keep its temperature really well in here. Hopefully you give this a try and let us know if you have any questions. But dirty rice or rice dressing, however you call it, super easy. Just needs a little bit of prep work and you're ready to go. We'll see you next time. Bye.